our main office is in Portland, Oregon. We have an office in San Francisco as well. We're just opening an office in Colorado. Not quite sure how that one's going to work out yet. We've been in business for 22 years, and both Sandy and I are lawyers. We started by doing adoptions. We've done several thousand adoptions together, and about 20 years ago, we started focusing the work that we are doing on surrogacy. What I'd like to do is to talk just a little bit about some of the biggest concerns that we have about the process, what we think it takes to make it work out comfortably for people. And then if we have a few minutes, we'd love to answer any questions that you might have, and we'll work at having at least a few minutes for that. So this is not easy process, and it's not easy because it's complicated. You're out there looking to establish a relationship with a woman, perhaps her husband and family, that's going to go on for a couple years, that is going to be oddly intimate in this sense that you're going to sit down first to meet her. You're at a conference room table. She's sitting next to her husband, and you're talking to her about having your baby. Your father didn't have that experience. You don't have a lot of people in your past that have had a lot of experience with those relationships. And so it's kind of all new to most of you. And there's some real challenges in it. What I want to say first about that circumstance is that the overwhelming experience is that it's really fairly comfortable and sometimes quite enjoyable, even at the very beginning. Everybody knows the rules. Everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows who she is in the sense that you have background information about one another. And everybody wants to make it work. And what we look at as our primary work at Northwest Surrogacy Center is to help you establish that relationship and then help guide you through that, because there's going to be problems on the way. You're going to have a question that you don't want to ask her because you're afraid she might get mad or it's just too personal, and you're going to want a caseworker to help with that. You're going to find yourself in a situation where there's a breakdown of communication and you just aren't quite sure how to get out of it. Again, that's something and the kind of thing that the case managers at Northwest Surrogacy spend most of their time, area where they spend most of their time working. So if you want to look at something that we think that we can do for you that makes the process work, is to know that we're a full-service agency. And in this context, what that means is we start at the very beginning of this process with you. We work with you at every point in the process up until the very end. Exception, we're not physicians, don't pretend to be, so we're not going to be doing your embryo transfer, we're not going to be doing the embryo creation. That's something that you're going to have to find help with someplace else. But we do take that from beginning to end. We have lots of experience. We've been doing it for years. The people at the office have been doing it and working with us in many cases for 15, 16, 17 years. In the entire life of the agency, we've only had 2 women leave. One because she wanted to go to nursing school, and one because she took a better job. At least that's what she says. What I'd like to do would be to ask Sandy if she had just a moment to talk a little bit about who the surrogates are and get you an idea.
So I think it's one of the questions that intended parents ask the most. It seems like we hear 2 questions. Who are these women who are willing to carry my baby? And then the other one is, what happens if she wants to keep my baby? But the first one is that they're amazing women. The women who want to be surrogates for you have, I don't know, this incredible generosity about them. And I know that they're being paid to do this, but they're also amazing women. So when we're looking for surrogates, we're seeing, I don't know, we probably talk to somewhere around 400 women per month, and we end up working with maybe about 6% of those women. So we definitely talk to a lot more women than we end up working with. The women who we do work with come from lots of different places. Many of them are working in the medical profession. Many of them are stay-at-home moms. Some of them are students. Some are married. Some are single. They all have children. They have to have children and be parenting their children. They have to have had healthy pregnancies and deliveries. They have to be between the ages of 21 and 42. The women seem to be motivated by many common things. They like being pregnant, and many say they love being pregnant. And I think they've all had really good pregnancies. I don't think anybody would want to do this if they hadn't. I think many times know somebody who has either had fertility issues in the past, or maybe they have friends or family who are gay, and they would just like to help somebody else have a baby. The money is a motivation, but it's not really enough money for it to be the only reason that women are offering to do this. I think that many times they want to use the money to do something to help their family. Maybe they want to go back to school, or make a down payment on a house, or use it to pay for private school for their children, or take a trip to Disneyland with their family. In terms of matching surrogates with intended parents, it's a mutual selection process, so you kind of do that blind date that John was talking about. Your case manager is present for that, but you're still meeting a surrogate, a woman, in a very, what intended parents describe as awkward situation, I think. But we look for, some similarities in what you're looking for in the relationship. Do you want to have a lot of contact during the pregnancy? Do you want to have contact after the birth? Do you want to go to lots of doctor's appointments? How many embryos are you going to transfer? Not all surrogates are willing to carry twins. They've all had one baby before. They know what it's like to be pregnant with a singleton, and they kind of want to do that again. So that might be all that they're interested in doing again. Some surrogates are comfortable working with a domestic family because they envision having a closer relationship with a domestic family. 70% of our families are gay. I think probably about 60% are international, so we have kind of a population that surrogates have to be open to. Some surrogates might be looking for a particular religion, or a family who wouldn't terminate a pregnancy if there was a genetic problem or something like that. So there are just things that we have to make sure that we're looking at in terms of matching the right family with the right surrogate. And of course you guys get the ultimate selection. When we send you a profile of a surrogate, we will have done a number of screening steps on her. She will have had an in-person interview. We will have done background checks on her and her family, or by family I guess I mean husband or partner. We will have gotten her medical records from her previous pregnancies and deliveries and had those approved by the IVF clinic. She will have had her psychological evaluation completed. And all of that takes time, so by the time you get her profile, it's probably been, I don't know, 3.5 months since we started working with her. And so you kind of want to plan when you want to have your baby, kind of based on the time that this whole process is going to take. I probably should give you a minute to talk about some of the legal issues, if you'd like, and then maybe we'll have...
we can take some questions.
Yeah, some time left for questions.
So one of the nice things about working in the states that we're working in, which is mostly California and Oregon, is that they're great communities to work in. They're great communities to work in because they're supportive, that they have a broad vision of family, and that the legal systems in both places, as well as Colorado, where we're just now starting to work, all allow a process pre-birth that will allow you to establish that you're the legal parents of the child or children. And when you look around and to ask people what they want as far as the legal process is concerned, that's the most common request that we get. Can we do a pre-birth order? We can do pre-birth orders. We do them all the time. And remember, we've been doing this as an agency for over 20 years. In our law practices, we've been doing it probably for another 10 years. And so way back in the olden days, when things were different and IVF wasn't very effective. And what's interesting for us, and I hope a little bit for you, is that in all those years, we have never had a court either deny or delay a petition, a request, that they establish parentage on behalf of one of our clients. And so it's an ultimate statement. There's no ifs, there's nothing about it but that. And the reason that should be comforting is that it shows that the places that we've chosen to do this work are supportive. We go to the courts and the courts are supportive. We walk into the judge and the judge smiles at us because they like the work that we do. They smile because they like the fact that they're creating families and being a part of that. And so for us, it's a real comfort to work in those circumstances. Maybe I should start. Does anybody have any questions about the legal process?
Do you only do surrogates in California or down in Colorado now?
Yeah, yes. And we've actually never, we have a few that we started working in Idaho.
Yeah.
And Idaho, when we started working there, was a great place to do surrogacy as well. I think that that's changed. And so we stopped working there, stopped recruiting surrogates about 3 months ago, 2 months ago, something like that, and are not recruiting surrogates anymore. I loved working in Idaho for so many reasons, but they started tweaking the procedure a little bit, and it appeared to us as though that there was an element of antagonism in it. And so we're not going to have, we don't want our clients involved in that. We don't want our clients to have to deal with those issues. Even though, frankly, it would probably still work just fine. We still don't want to get involved, and so we stopped working and moved. That's why we moved to Colorado, because we needed another source of surrogates, and both as far as their legal system is concerned, and culturally, probably it's a more comfortable place for a lot of our clients. Any other questions about the legal process? And by the way, in all 3 states, the contracts that you have with the surrogate are also enforceable as you go through them. So, opening it up to questions generally, what questions can we answer? What information would you like to have that you don't have right now?
Maybe just as a corollary to that, is your wait list a little longer because you are restricted on the states that you work in, or you find?
No. I think that we're probably very typical of agencies our size, maybe a little faster than most. We've actually undergone some really substantial changes in that area over the last 4 months. We were getting into a situation where people were waiting 6 and 7 months, and that's too long. It's too long a wait. And we doubled the size of the recruitment team, and we ended up by hiring Madfish, a company that does nothing but help us with marketing, specifically to surrogates. And what that was allowed us to do is actually increase the number of women that we got intakes from about 200, 250 to 450. And so it almost doubled the numbers that we were working with, and that has allowed us to have a dramatic decrease in waiting times already, and we think that that's going to go on. We know it's going to go on for 3 or 4 months because those people are already in the system. We're hoping that that will continue, and we'll be talking about 3 months to 5 months, something around there, which is a far more reasonable time. If somebody tells you it's going to be 5 months, understand that the first thing you have to do is you have to go out and find an egg donor, you have to find a clinic, you have to create embryos. I mean, you got a lot of stuff to do. And so 5 months, you're going to spend the first 3 or 4 months of that just doing the rest of the stuff that you have to do in the process. You get to the end of that time period, it would be our hope that you would have a surrogate profile ready to go, and that you would be matched shortly after that. So it is something that is one of the bigger issues in our world right now, is to make those sort of wait times reasonable. Any other questions?
So do you see most surrogates having close relationships with their intended parents, and does that happen only during the pregnancy, or does it also extend beyond after the pregnancy?
Well, it's real interesting because one of the important parts, of course, is trying to maintain that relationship. There was a discussion about that beforehand. Last Saturday, we were at a party given by 2 couples from Luxembourg. Both of them had twins there, and both of them were just as excited and as happy as possible. They wanted to have a party. They got together to do that. They invited us. They invited Dr. Hessler from the clinic, and then they invited their surrogate and their surrogate's family. And so everybody was there that was involved in this process. And I asked one of them, who I'd never met before, actually, even though she worked with our program, I didn't know her. I asked her whether she'd ever do it again, and her response was no. I asked her how she would describe her time. She said, it was wonderful. I'd do it again in a minute. And what had happened during that process is that there was a lot of closeness. And the fact is that for men, in many ways, it's easier for you to become close to a surrogate under these circumstances than it is for a surrogate to come close to a straight couple. A straight woman under these circumstances as an intended parent has all sorts of issues that you don't have. You know, they come to this process and they're disappointed and they're frustrated and they're upset that they have to do it, whereas you folks, guess what? I mean, this is always the program. If this was going to happen, it was going to happen because you got some help. And the fact is that our gay clients do a wonderful job of establishing and maintaining those relationships. And one of the things to look at in the process is the kind of stuff that you should be looking at anyway, and that is the surrogates are just like everybody else. Some of them know how to establish and maintain long-term relationships, and some of them don't. So that if I were to make some suggestions on how to do that, I would look for somebody who had these long-term relationships, had a history of them, knows how to maintain them. I would hopefully come to the table with the same ability to establish and maintain those long-term relationships in hopes that you could do it yourselves, and I would expect that you could. I think that we're preciously close to being done. We have about 30 seconds more. Any other hot questions, stuff you'd like us to talk about in 30, 20 seconds? Well, thank you.